Est-ce qu'ils ramassent des autres juifs pour les camps de travail?
Non. J'ai entendu dire qu'ils accélèrent le programme racial. On dit qu'il y a des fours en Pologne. Ils brûlent les juifs.
On les brûle, vraiment? Pétan est d'accord?
C'est ce que j'ai entendu dire. Mais ne vous inquiétez pas. Qu'est-ce que peu de juifs pour nous?
Ah, je suppose que nous avons tous nous autres. Bonne chance.
Bonne chance.
A cup of coffee would be nice, even a sip. Do you have any idea what's going on?
I was walking down the street.
Me too. Something told me, don't go outside today, so I went out. Does anybody know anything?
I've only been here a couple minutes myself, just before they brought you in.
This isn't a police station, is it?
It's just some building they're using, I guess.
It's painted like a police station. They're always the same color everywhere, like dead clams with a little yellow mixed in. I haven't eaten in 2 days. Everything gets more vivid when you're hungry. You ever notice that?
I'd offer you something, but I forgot my lunch this morning. Matter of fact, I was just turning back to get it when they came up alongside me. Why don't you try to sit back and relax?
I'm nervous. I'm nervous anyway. I was even nervous before the war. Excuse me. Hey, is that the way they brought you in on the street, sir? Well, Jesus, pardon me for living.
It's perfectly obvious they're making a routine identity check. With so many foreigners pouring into Vichy, probably a lot of spies and God knows what. Just a document check, that's all.
You think so?
I don't know.
There are thousands of people running around with false papers. You can't permit such things in times like these, especially now with the Germans starting to take over down here. You have to expect things to be more strict.
You don't get any special flavors?
I don't see anything to fear if your paper's all right.
Look, you are, aren't you?
What's the matter with you, asking questions like that?
What am I supposed to do? In '39, I had an American visa, before the invasion. I actually had it in my hand.
Calm down. This may all be routine. I don't know, maybe.
In 1939, we were packed for America. Suddenly, my mother wouldn't leave the furniture. I'm here because of a brass bed and fourth-rate crockery.
It's not that simple. You should try to think of why things happen. It helps to know the meaning of one's suffering.
What meaning? If my mother...
It's not your mother. The monopoly's got control of Germany. Big business is out to make slaves of everyone. That's why you're here.
Well, I'm no philosopher, but I know my mother, and that's why I'm here. He's like people who look at my paintings. What does this mean? What does that mean? I'm walking down the street, a car pulls up beside me, and a man gets out and measures my nose. The next thing, I'm sitting in a space station, or whatever the hell this is, in the middle of Europe, at the peak of civilization. God damn it, I want some coffee!
Sit down.
Excuse me, sir. Is there a telephone one can use? I have an appointment at 11 o'clock. It's quite...
Isn't it wonderful? The man is probably on his way to work at a German coal mine, and he's worried about breaking an appointment. And people want realistic painting. Did they measure your nose?
Will you stop asking idiotic questions?
I agree with you, sir. Vichy must be full of counterfeit papers. I think as soon as they start, it shouldn't take long.
Did they measure your nose?
I think it'd be best if we all kept quiet.
What is it, my clothes? How do you know? I may be the greatest painter in France.
For your sake, I hope you are.
You would think, though, they'd economize on personnel. In the car that stopped me, there's a driver, 2 French detectives, and a German official of some kind.
Gypsy?
Gypsy.
Gypsies never have papers. Why'd they bother him?
In his case, it might be some other reason. He probably stole that pen.
No, on the sidewalk, I fix. You see. Make it nice. I sit down to fix. But come please.
But they'll tell you anything, right? They don't mind. They're proud of stealing, aren't you? I like them personally, especially the music. But they'll steal anything they get their hands on, right?
Why shouldn't he steal? Why shouldn't he steal? How'd you get your money?
I happen to be in business.
And what have you got against stealing?
Are you trying to provoke somebody? Is that it?
Another businessman.
I happen to be an electrician, but a certain amount of solidarity wouldn't hurt right now.
How about some solidarity with gypsies?
I know this one. I made him go away 100 times. He and his wife stand outside the cafe with a baby, and they beg. It's not even their baby. Good morning, Major.
You know him?
I serve him breakfast every morning. Tell you the truth, he's really not bad. Regular army, not one of those SS bums. He got wounded somewhere, so they stuck him back here. Only came about a month ago. But he-
Excuse me, officer. I hate to trouble you, but I'd be much obliged if I could use the telephone for one moment. It's business connected to food supply. I'm the manager.
I'm not in charge of this procedure. You'll have to talk to the captain, please.
I beg your pardon.
He's really not bad. He even comes at night sometimes. Plays a beautiful piano. Gives himself French lessons out of a book. Always has a few nice words to say.
Does he know that
Don't
you're...
discuss that here. What's the matter with you?
Sir, I must ask the reason for this. I'm a combat officer, captain in the French army. There is no authority to arrest me in French territory.
Don't give me any more trouble, speech maker.
Try to take it easy. They wait. I'm just about to order coffee. Will you have some? Yes, please. I believe I'm first, sir.
Yes, this way.
Thank you. I was on my way to the Ministry of Defense. My pleasure.
Yeah,
What about him, Miss?
June 9th. I was in the 16th Artillery, facing you. I recognize your insignia.
That was a bad day for you.
Yes, and evidently for you.
Can't complain.
He's really not bad. You'll see.
What's this all about?
It seems they're checking on identification papers.
What's the procedure?
They've just started. That businessman is the first.
Did they measure your nose?
Measure noses?
Yeah, they measured my nose, right on the street. Tell you what I think. I think it's to carry stones. Last Monday, a girl I know came up from Marseille. She said there was a crowd of people carrying stones.
I've never heard of forced labor in the Vichy zone.
Where do you come from?
I live out in the country. I don't make it to town very often. There's been no forced labor decree, has there?
Now listen, I'm going to tell you something, but I don't want anybody quoting me. Is that understood? You hear what I said?
Don't make me out some kind of an idiot. Christ, I know it's serious.
I work in the railroad yards. A 30-car freight train pulled in yesterday. The engineer is Polish, and the switchman said he heard people inside.
Inside the cars?
Yes, it came from Toulouse. I heard there's been a quiet roundup in Toulouse the past couple of weeks. And what's a Polish engineer doing on a train in the south of France? You understand?
Why? A lot of people have been volunteering for work in Germany. That's no secret. They're doubling the rations for anybody who goes.
The cars are locked on the outside, and they stink. You can smell the stench from 100 yards away. Babies are crying inside. You can hear them, and women too. They don't let volunteers in that way.
I've never heard of them applying the racial laws down here. It's still French territory. They've made a big point of that.
The gypsy bothers them.
Why?
They're in the same category of the racial laws.
Unless you really stole that pan.
Hey, listen, you steal that pan? You did, didn't you?
What? No,
Look,
do not
I've got
steal.
nothing against you.
No.
I want one of these too.
No
He
steal.
steals everything.
He's probably in for stealing. That's all.
Excuse me. Have you all been arrested for being Jewish?
Nobody
What?
here is
No,
Jewish.
I'm
As
not
far as I know,
Jewish.
nobody here is Jewish.
I'm terribly sorry. It's only that I was buying a newspaper, and this gentleman overheard me. He seemed to notice my accent. He told me I must have my documents checked.
Listen, take my advice. If you find yourself on that train, there are 4 bolts halfway up the doors on the inside. Try to pick up a nail or a screwdriver, even a sharp stone. You can chisel the wood out around those bolts and the doors will open. I warn you, don't believe anything they tell you. I heard they're working Jews to death in the Polish camps.
I happen to have a cousin. They sent him to Auschwitz, that's in Poland. I've had several letters from him saying he's fine. They've even taught him bricklaying.
Look, friend, I'm telling you what I've heard from people who know. People who make it their business to know. Don't believe any stories about resettlement or that they're going to teach you a trade or something. If you find yourself on that train, get out before it gets to where it's going.
This is so typical. We're in the French zone. Nobody said one word to us. And we're already on a train for a concentration camp, where we'll be dead in a year.
I think what this man says should be taken seriously.
In my opinion, you're all hysterical. They were picking up Jews in Germany for years before the war. They've been doing it in Paris since they came in. Are you telling me all those people are dead? Is that really conceivable to you? War is war, but you still have to keep a sense of proportion. I mean, the Germans are still people.
I don't speak this way because they're Germans.
It's because they're fascists.
It's because they're people.
I happen to have played in Germany. I know the German people.
I studied in Germany for 5 years, and in Austria,
In Austria? Where?
at the Psychoanalytic Institute in Vienna.
Imagine.
He's a psychiatrist. No wonder he's so pessimistic.
Where did you live? I'm Phoenix.
Perhaps you'd be wiser not to speak in detail.
I'm terribly sorry. Yes, of course. I was only curious if you knew Baron Kessler. He was very interested in medical school.
No.
He's my cousin, you see.
You're a nobleman?
Yes.
What's your name?
Wilhelm Johann von Berg.
The prince?
Yes. Forgive me. Have we met?
No, but naturally I've heard your name. It's one of the oldest houses in Austria.
Oh, that's no importance anymore.
Now what the hell would would they want with an Austrian prince? I mean, you're Catholic, right?
Yes.
Were you political?
No, I never had any interest in that direction. Of course, there is this resentment toward the nobility. That might explain it.
In the Nazis' resentment?
Yes, certainly.
Really? But on what ground?
Not asking that seriously.
Don't be offended. I'm simply ignorant of that situation. But you still take seriously the title?
It is not a title. It is my name, my family, just as you have a name and a family. And you are not inclined to dishonor them, I presume.
Please forgive me. I didn't mean to. I've never thought of it that way. But it's obvious now. They'd want to destroy whatever power you have.
Oh no, I have no power. And if I did, it would be a day's work for them to destroy it. That's not the issue.
What is it then? Believe me, I'm not being critical.
But these are obvious answers. I have a certain standing. My name is 1,000 years old, and they know the danger of someone like me is perhaps not vulgar enough.
And by vulgar you mean?
Well, don't you think Nazism, whatever else it may be, is an outburst of vulgarity, an ocean of vulgarity?
You make it sound like they have bad table manners.
They certainly do, yes. Nothing angers them more than a sign of any refinement. It is decadent, you see.
What kind of statement is that? You mean you left Austria because of their table manners?
Table manners, yes, and the adoration of dreadful art, and grocery clerks in uniform telling the orchestra music it may not play. Vulgarity can be enough to send a man out of his country. Yes, I think so.
In other words, if they had good taste in art and elegant table manners and let the orchestra play whatever it liked, they'd be all right with you?
But how would that be possible? Can people with respect for art go about hounding Jews, pushing themselves forward as a race of policemen? Is that possible for artistic people?
I'd like to agree with you, Prince von Berg, but I have to say, the German audiences, I've played there. No audience is as sensitive to the smallest nuance of a performance. They sit in the theater with respect, like in a church.
I'm afraid that is true, yes. I never thought about it quite that way. I'm afraid I knew many cultivated people who did become Nazis. Yes, they did. Art is perhaps no defense against this. You may be right. I don't understand very much about it. Actually, I'm essentially a musician, in an amateur way, of course, and politics has never...
Good day, gentlemen. I shall pass the door. Thank you.
What's
What
going
did he
on?
say?
What there?
I could have sworn he was a Jew. Didn't you think so?
You have papers, don't you?
Oh, sure, I have good papers.
We'll just insist they're valid. Maybe that's what he did.
I wish you'd take a look at them, will you?
I'm no expert.
I'd like your opinion, though.
Next. You, come with me. You can leave that.
Whoa, fix, not still. Why?
I said leave it there.
Huh? Okay. You see, that's mine. Don't move it.
What do you think? Look good as far as I can tell.
That man did seem Jewish to me. Didn't he too, Doctor?
I have no idea. Jews are not a race, you know. They can look like anybody.
He just probably had good papers, because I know people have papers. I mean, all you have to do is look at them and know that they're funny.
Could you look at mine?
I'm no expert, kid. Anyway, don't just sit there looking at them like that.
Are you alright, sir?
I think you're right. It's all just a question of your papers. That businessman certainly looked Jewish.
I'm not so sure now.
A minute ago you were sure, now suddenly...
Well, even if he wasn't, it only means it really is a general checkup on the whole population.
Hey, that's right too. How about you? They measure your nose because yours looks bigger than mine.
Cut it out! Just cut it out, will you?
You, come inside. Ah, at last.
Sorry, Captain. Before you, I had to make some fresh.
Do you mind if I made a suggestion? You looked terribly uncertain of yourself when you stood up just now. Please, I'm not criticizing you.
Well, naturally, I'm a little nervous, facing a room full of fascists like this.
But that's why you must feel especially self-confident. I'm quite sure that's what got that businessman through so quickly. I've had similar experiences on trains, and even in Paris, when they stopped me several times. The important thing is not to look like a victim, or even to feel like one.
But how does one avoid feeling like a victim?
One must create one's own reality in this world. I'm an actor. We do this all the time. The audience, you know, is very sadistic. It looks for your first sign of weakness. So you must try and think of something that makes you feel self-assured. Anything at all. Like the day, perhaps, when your father gave you a compliment. After all, you are trying to create an illusion, to make them believe you are who your papers say you are.
That's very wise. You must have great courage.
I'm afraid not, but I have talent instead.
You're in a bad way if you have to put on an act to feel your rightness. The bourgeoisie sold France. They led the Nazis to destroy the French working class. Remember the causes of this war, and you've got real confidence.
Except that the causes of this war keep changing.
Not if you understand the economic and political forces.
When Germany attacked, the communists refused to support France. They pronounced an imperialist war, until the Nazis turned against Russia. Then in one afternoon, it all changed, into a sacred battle against tyranny.
My friend, without the Red Army standing up to them right now, you could forget France for 1,000 years.
I agree, but that does not require an understanding of economic and political forces, simply faith in the Red Army.
It's faith in the future, and the future is socialist. That's what I take in there with me.
You feel it's important not to feel alone? Is that it?
None of us is alone. We're all members of history.
We're symbols?
Yes, why not? Symbols, yes.
And you feel this helps you. Believe me, I'm genuinely interested.
It helps me because this is the truth. What am I to them personally? Do they know me? You react personally to this, they'll make you into an idiot. You can't make sense of this on a personal basis.
But what can one be if not oneself? The thought of torture.
What frightens me, of course, but they can't torture the future. That's out of their hands. Man was not made to be a slave of big business. Whatever they do, something inside me is lacking, because they can't win. Impossible.
So that in a sense, you aren't here, you personally?
In a sense, why? What's wrong with that?
Nothing. It may be the best way. It's only that one ordinarily tries to be oneself, to be in spirit where one's body is.
You think a man can ever be himself in this society when millions go hungry and few live like kings? I put in 10 hours a day for a few francs, and I see people who never bend their backs and they own the planet. My spirit is in the future, when the working class are masters of the world. That is my confidence, not some borrowed personality.
But don't you think, excuse me, are not most of the Nazis of the working class?
Well, naturally, with enough propaganda, you can confuse anybody.
But in that case, how can one have such confidence in them?
Who do you have confidence in? The aristocracy?
In certain aristocrats, yes. And in certain common people.
Are you telling me that history is a question of certain people? Are we sitting here because we are certain people? Is any of us individual to them?
I'm happy to meet a man who is not cynical. Any faith is precious these days. But to give your faith to a class of people is impossible. 99% of the Nazis are ordinary working class people.
I concede it is possible to propagandize.
But that cannot be propagandized. A few individuals, don't you think so?
You're an intelligent man, Prince. Are you seriously telling me that 5, 10, 1,000, 10,000 decent people of integrity are all that stand between us and the end of everything? Is the whole world gonna hang on that thread?
I hadn't really considered it that way. But you really think the working class will...
They will destroy fascism because it is against their interest.
But in that case, isn't it even more of a mystery? They adore Hitler.
How can you say that? Hitler's a creation of the capitalist class.
But they adore him. My own cook, my gardeners, the chauffeur, they are Nazis. I saw it coming over them, the love for this creature. My housekeeper dreams of him in her bed. She'd serve my breakfast like a god had supped with her. I beg your pardon, but it disturbs me. I admire your faith, but when I know it is based upon something so untrue, it is terribly disturbing. They adore him. The salt of the earth adore him. Strange. If I did not know some of them when they were French, I'd say they laughed like Germans. I suppose vulgarity has no nation after all.
Veron. Veron.
What can I do? I told you 50 times to get out of the city.
What? Tell us.
It's not to work. They have furnaces.
What?
He heard them.
Furnaces?
People get burned up in furnaces. It's not to work. They burn you up in Poland.
about Jew on my papers.
They're going to look at your penis.
You can come now. Inside.
You've been to a cop by now.
No, that's the boss's son. They're starting to serve lunch.
There's only one guard at the door. 3 men can take him.
I'm afraid I'd only get in your way. I have no strength in my hands.
You actually believe that, Doctor, about the furnaces?
I believe it is possible. Yes. Come, we can do something.
But what good are dead Jews to them? They want free labor, it's senseless. You can say whatever you like, but the Germans are not illogical. There's no conceivable advantage for them. An atrocity like that is beyond belief.
That is exactly the point.
Prince, you can't tell me you believe such a thing.
I find it the most believable atrocity I have heard.
But why?
Because it is so inconceivably vile. It paralyzes the rest of us. I used to ask my friends, if you love your country, why is it necessary to hate other countries? To be a good German, why must you despise everything that is not German? Until I realized the answer. They do these things not because they are German, but because they are nothing. The less you exist, the more important it is to make a clear impression. If you despise Jews, the most honest thing is to burn them up. And the fact that it costs money and uses up trains and personnel, this only guarantees the integrity, the purity, the existence of their feelings. They would even tell you that only a Jew would think of the cost. They are poets. They are striving for a new nobility, the nobility of the totally vulgar. I believe in this fire. It would prove for all time that they exist. Yes, and that they were sincere.
But they arrested you. There's nothing Jewish about you.
I have an accent. I noticed he reacted when I started to speak. He may think I'm a refugee.
Next. You. Don't be alarmed. It's only to check your papers. Stop! Stop!
Back in.
Major, where are you going?
Excuse me, I'll be back in a few minutes. You can carry on without me.
Major, you have your orders. I must insist you take your place.
I think some mistake has been made. I'm a line officer. I have no experience with things of this kind. My training is engineering and artillery.
Major, are you refusing this assignment?
I'm in pain today, Professor. They're still removing fragments. I understood I was only to hold this desk down until an SS officer took over. I'm more or less alone from the regular army.
But the regular army is not exempt from carrying out the racial program. My orders come from the top, and my report will go to the top. You understand?
I do, yes.
If you wish to be relieved, I can easily tell.
No, that's all right. I'll be back in a few minutes.
This is bizarre, Major. How am I supposed to wait for you?
I need a walk. This kind of business takes days.
Very well.
You can carry on.
I will not continue that, Major.
Mister, I tried you.
What about you?
Whatever you say, but I'm so hungry it wouldn't do much good.
You could walk up to him, start an argument, distract his attention.
You're both crazy. They'll shoot you down.
Some of us would make it. This neighborhood is full of alleyways. You can disappear in 20 yards.
How long would you be free? An hour? And when they catch you, they'll really tear you apart.
Please, I have to get out. I was on my way to the pawn shop. It's my mother's wedding ring. It's all that's left. She's waiting for the money. They have nothing in the house to eat.
You take my advice, boy. Don't do anything. They'll let you go.
Like the electrician.
He was obviously a communist, and the waiter irritated the captain.
Look, I'd try it with you, but don't expect too much. I'm weak as a chicken. I haven't eaten in 2 days.
It would be better with another man. If you and the boy rush him, I can get his rifle away.
I'm not going to risk my life for nothing. That businessman had a Jewish face. You said so yourself.
But if it's a general checkup, why would they be looking at penises?
There's no evidence of
The
that.
waiter's boss.
He overheard French detectives who can't possibly know anything about what happens in Poland. And if they do that kind of thing, it's not the end either. I had Jew stamped to my passport in Paris, and I was playing Cyrano at the same time.
Really, Cyrano? Then why did you leave Paris?
It was an absolutely idiotic accident. My friends kept warning me to get out, but naturally, one doesn't just give up a role like that. But I had a number of books on the forbidden list, things like Sinclair Lewis and Thomas Mann, which everybody was reading at the time. So I had to get rid of them. I made bundles and went out to leave them on benches or in doorways or anywhere at all. It was after midnight, and I noticed a man standing in a doorway watching me. realized I'd stamped my name and address in every one of those books.
What did you do?
Started walking and kept right on down here to the unoccupied zone. But in my opinion, if I'd done nothing at all, I might still be working.
Listen to me for a moment. I beg you. There's only one guard at the door. We may never get another chance like this again. You must feel the danger here.
I've played in Germany. That audience cannot burn up actors in a furnace. Prince, you can't tell me you believe that.
I supported a small orchestra. When the Germans came into Austria, 3 of the players prepared to escape. I convinced them no harm would come to them. I brought them into my castle. The oldest was 21. The heart stopped when he played certain tones. They came for him in the garden. They took him out of his chair, as though they wished to take him at exactly the moment when he was most beautiful. The instrument lay on the lawn like a dead bone. I made certain inquiries. He is dead now. I tell you, nothing is forbidden any longer. Nothing. I believe in this fire.
Will they let you go?
I suppose if this is all to catch Jews, they will let me go.
Would you take this home and bring it back to my mother? Number 9, Lucia, top floor. 30, Sarah Hurt. She has long brown hair. Be sure it's her. She has a little bee mark on his cheek. There are 2 other families in the company, so be sure it's her.
Come, tell me what to do. I'll try to help. Doctor?
I'm afraid it won't be enough.
Why?
He's weak with hunger. You're like a feather. I want to get away, not just slaughter.
If you're trying to bait me, Doctor, forget it.
But you're making a gift of yourself.
I refuse to play a part I do not fit. Everybody's playing the victim these days. Hopeless, hysterical. They always assume the worst. I have papers. I will present them with the single idea that they must be honored.
And when they throw you into a freight car?
I don't think they
But
will.
when they tell you to open your fly?
I have nothing to say to you.
I'll tell you what. I wish I was him, to be innocent.
You feel guilty then?
A little, I guess. Not for anything I've done, but I don't know why.
For being Jew, perhaps?
I'm not ashamed of being a Jew. Maybe it's that they keep saying such terrible things about us, and you can't answer. And after years and years of it, I wouldn't say you believe it, but you do, a little. They only caught me this morning because I always used to take walks before I sat down to work. I knew I shouldn't go outside, but you get tired. I just had to get out, see something real, something else but the inside of my head. I believe in the furnaces. I believe you can die, but you can get so tired.
That it's not too bad.
Almost, yes.
So that one way or another, we've all been trained to die.
You're still trying to bait me, Doctor. But if you want to commit suicide, do it alone. Don't involve others. The fact is, there are laws, and every government enforces its laws.
Not every government has laws condemning people because of their race.
The Russians condemn the middle class. The English condemned the Indians. Every nation has condemned somebody because of his race, including the Americans. The vast majority of mankind has been condemned because of its race. What do you advise these people? Suicide?
What do you advise?
I go on the assumption that if I obey the law with dignity, I will live in peace. I may not like the law, but evidently the majority does. And I'm speaking of the French majority, who outnumber the Germans in this town 50-1. These are French police, don't forget, not German. And if by some miracle you did knock out that guard, you'd find yourself in a city where not one person in 1,000 would help you.
In short, you will wait calmly and with great dignity to open your fly?
I'll tell you what I think. I think it's people like you who brought this on us. People who give Jews a reputation for subversion and this Talmudic analysis and this everlasting niggling discontent. Stop!
Number 9, Lucia.
Where are you going? You can't. Wait, I'm coming.
That's impossible. Don't try it.
Sir, I'd only like to say that this is all as inconceivable to me as it is to you. I'm sorry to know this. Can you believe that?
I believe if you shot a few of them,
We'd all be replaced by tomorrow, wouldn't we?
some of us would make it. You could see to that.
They'd find us.
Not me.
Means nothing to you that I have feelings about this?
Nothing whatever, unless you get us out of here.
And then what?
I'll remember decent journey, an honorable journey.
What difference will that make?
I will love you as long as I live. Can anyone do that now?
And that means so much to you that someone love you?
Would I be worthy of someone's love? Yes. And respect.
It's amazing. You don't understand anything! Nothing of that kind is left. What do I care if you love me? love me. What am I, a dog that I must be loved? You goddamn dogs! Look at him with his paws. Well, look what happens when I yell at him. Dog! Does he move? Do you see him moving? But we move, don't we? We measure your noses. We look at your cocks. We keep moving continually. Vi beveger oss där vi weiter.
Mer.
Han beveger oss väl i bastard.
Ich denke.
Kein Wort!
Du bist betrunken.
Stop. Everything stops. And now it's all stopped. Now you tell me. No, nothing is moving. You tell me. Go ahead now. Tell me what I should do. I have you at the end of this revolver. He has me. Somebody has him. And somebody has somebody else. Now tell me. I won't repeat it. I'm a man of honor. What do you make of that? I will not tell them what you advise me to do. Damn decent of me, isn't it? Not to repeat your advice. If you were released and the others were kept, would you refuse? Would you refuse?
No,
Walk out that door with light heart.
I don't know.
Don't hide your face. I'm trying to understand if you're better than me. Why do you hide your face? Would you walk out that door with light heart, run to your woman and drink a toast to your skin? Why are you better?
Nothing to say.
That's better. Next.
This way.
Get back then. Next.
Good morning, Captain.
Number 9, Lucia, please.
I'll give it to her.
I'm a minor. I'm not even 15. Does it apply to minors?
You boy. Inside.
I'm a minor. I'm not even 15 until February.
Inside.
I can get my birth certificate.
Inside. Inside.
I wish we could have met under other circumstances.
I'd appreciate if you do me a favor.
Certainly.
Will you go and tell my wife?
Where is she?
Take the main highway, north 2 kilometers. You'll see a forest on the left and a dirt road leading into it. Go about 1 kilometer until you see the river. Follow the river to a small mill. They're in the tool shed behind the wheel.
And what shall I say?
Tell her the truth.
What do you mean?
The furnaces, tell her that. It must be known. Just bring her aside. The children don't need to hear. But tell her.
It's only that it would be difficult for me.
But if it's happening, you can find a way to say it, can you?
Very well, I'll tell her. It's only that I have no great facility with women. But I'll do as you say. That boy, maybe he's too young, you suppose. They would stick to the rules, you know. In fact, with the shortage of physicians, you suppose they... I'm sorry if I said anything to offend you.
It's just that you keep finding these little shreds of hope. And it's difficult.
Yes, I see. I beg your pardon. I understand. Would you like to speak of something else, perhaps? Are you interested in music?
It's quite simple. It's that you'll survive, you see.
But I can't help that, can I?
That only makes it worse.
Doctor, I can promise you it will not be easy for me to walk out of here.
I'm afraid it will only be difficult because it is so easy.
I think that's unfair.
Well, it doesn't matter.
It does to me. I can tell you I was very close to suicide in Austria. Actually, that was why I left. When they murdered my musicians, not that alone, but when I told the story to many of my friends, there was hardly any reaction.
Why don't you just stop talking? Please forgive me. I didn't mean to. I do appreciate your feelings, but it's hard to listen to amelioration, even if it's well meant.
I had no intention of ameliorating.
You do. You must. You will survive. You will have to ameliorate it. Just a little, just enough. It's no reflection on you. But this is why people get so furious. All this suffering, it's so pointless. It can never be a meaning. It can never be a lesson. It's a total, absolute waste. Listen, don't mention the furnaces to my wife.
I'm glad you say that. I feel very relieved. There's really no point.
It's that there's no reason for me to be caught here. We have a good hideout. They never would have found us. But she's an exposed nerve in a tooth. I thought I might find some codeine. Just say I was arrested.
Does she have sufficient money?
You could help her that way, since you
The children are small?
2 and 3.
How dreadful. How dreadful. You suppose if I offered him something, I can get a hold of a good deal of money. I know so little about people. I'm afraid he's rather an idealist. It could infuriate him more.
You could try to feel him out. I don't know what to tell you.
How upside down everything is. To find oneself wishing for a money-loving cynic.
It's perfectly natural. We've learned the price of idealism.
And yet can one wish for a world without ideals? That's it's so depressing. One doesn't know what to wish for.
Next. Do you hear me? Why do you sit there? Leave that.
Leave it. Let go of that.
I would like to part with your friendship. Is that possible?
Prince, it's not you I'm angry with. It's not even this Nazi. It's that I should have been born before that day when man has accepted his own nature, that he's unreasonable, that he is full of murder, that his ideals are only the little tax he pays for the right to hate and kill with a clear conscience.
There are ideals, Doctor, of another kind. There are people who would find it easier to die than to stain one finger with this murder. They exist, I swear to you. Foolish people and ineffectual, but they do exist. I ask your friendship.
I owe you the truth, Prince. I know you won't believe it now, but I'd like for you to think about it. I've never in my life analyzed a Gentile who did not have somewhere hidden in his mind a dislike, if not a hatred for the Jews.
That is impossible. It is not true of me.
Part of knowing who you are is knowing you are not someone else. And Jew is only the name we give to that stranger. Every man has his Jew. It is the other. And the Jews have their Jews. Now above all, you must see that you have yours. It is the man's death who leaves you relieved you are not him. That's why there is nothing, and will be nothing, until you face your own complicity with this atrocity.
I deny that absolutely. I have never in my life said a word against your people. Is that your implication? That I have something to do with this monstrousness? I have put a pistol to my head. To my head!
Prince, you asked me before if I knew your cousin, Baron Kessler. Baron Kessler is a Nazi. He removed all his Jewish doctors from the hospital. You were aware of that, weren't you?
Yes, I heard it. I have forgotten it. You see, he was...
Your cousin. I understand that. In any case, it is only a small part of Baron Kessler to you, but it is all of Baron Kessler to me. When you said his name, it was with love, and I'm sure he's a man of some kindness. But when I hear that name, I see a knife. That's why your thoughts of suicide don't move me. It's not your guilt I want, it's your responsibility. If you had thought that if Baron Kessler was in some part, in some small part, in some small and frightful part, be doing your will, you might have done something then. With your standing, and your name, and your decency, aside from shooting yourself.
Next.
Handweg!
Doctor. Take it. Go. Number 9.
What will happen
go.
to you?
Go, go.
I didn't ask you to do that. You don't owe me this.
Go.
Next. Where's your pass? Man escaped! Man escaped! Man escaped!
Thank you all so much for coming. For those of you who heard my little story yesterday, I apologize I'm going to repeat it. The novelist and poet Julia Alvarez was once asked why art matters and if she really believed that it mattered. And she said in her dark moments, in the middle of the night, when she was having difficulty sleeping, she believed that it didn't matter, because there's no big difference that it makes. But then she realized as she got older, of course, that you only believe that revelation comes to you in the middle of the night when you're young. When you get older, you understand that revelation comes, in the morning over a cup of tea. And she realized that she knows that art matters, not because it makes some big difference, because though of the tiny differences, the tiny adjustments that it makes in the heart that leave our doors and windows open so that we don't shut ourselves up inside of our beliefs. And it is a great honor and a great pleasure to be a part of a community where people understand why art matters, why people understand why doing this matters. And so I just feel incredibly grateful to be a part of this group, and I want to express my gratitude to all the faculty who helped put this together, to Ms. Dews, who helped cover my classes, to Mr. Doran, who helped bring this space together, to all of the parents who helped, not just by the incredible sacrifices that every parent makes to send their kid to the school, but the parents who sent in food and ladders and helped with the sound system and all these sorts of things. And I especially want to thank Mademoiselle Hughes, if you could please come out here. I've gotten a comment from many parents that they were really appreciated how well organized this was. And I would like to take credit for that, but the truth is that I am a Neanderthal compared to Mademoiselle Hughes. And that without her, we would all still be in bed this morning forgetting that we had to be here. So thank you very much. I also want to... I also want to give another round of applause to the 10th graders. Come on out, everyone. As those of you who are parents in the audience know, each and every one of these 10th graders took on additional responsibilities above and beyond the work that you saw them do on stage tonight. Sam made the poster. Andy was responsible for designing all the sound and playing that gorgeous piano that we heard. Una wrote the bit in the program. She researched Arthur Miller and designed the program. Cooper was responsible for the vision of this space, this set. Everyone had something wonderful to do. So let's give them all a round of applause for the rest of the And I want to just take a few questions. It's Saturday evening and they all have important places to be, but they have been doing a great job the last couple of shows of answering questions. And I want to say there are people in the audience who haven't heard your answers so far, so don't be afraid to repeat an answer that you might have already given before, because they're really quite impressive. Does anyone have any questions for the actors?
What's it like doing this play in this political period?
What's it like doing this play right now with all the stuff going on in the news? Anyone like to tackle that?
This week, the last 48 hours.
Charlotte, thank you.
I think this play really brought light to all those situations, although you see them on the news and hear them on the radio. And also, even though there were Nazis that were racist, even the Jews were racist towards each other. they always had these labels like, she's a Jew, he's Catholic, or something like that. So I just thought the play really brought attention to that kind of stuff.
Just a curious follow-up to that question. How many people had to kind of turn off the radio and ignore the news for the last few weeks just because of the work you were doing on the play? Did anyone need to take kind of a media break? Just show of hands. No, you were all in. Okay. No. Other questions? Yeah.
Yeah, up to this point, the plays you've done in the past have usually been lighthearted and fun. At this stage in your life, do you feel this is appropriate? Did it work for you? Were you able to grasp what you were presenting to us?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, tell us a little bit more about that.
I mean, we're obviously older, so we can understand it more, and also just have a deeper understanding. It's more complicated, like a lot more of our block was about the play than actually performing the play as well.
Udo, would you be willing to share what you shared earlier today about how you felt about the plays that you, or the roles that you played in the past in contrast to this role? Would you be,
No, they're just different. Like, I've always played the same sort of person, and now I'm playing a Nazi. It's just different. But yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else want to answer that question? That's a pretty big question. Anyone else want to take a stab at that? Any other questions?
Kind of a follow-up on that one. You know, with yesterday being International Holocaust Remembrance Day, how do you feel studying this play, performing this play, and how does that compare to other ways that you might have learned about the Holocaust and more traditional learning the facts and the history? They kind of embodying this play or looking at this half dozen people that were involved in a very small part of a huge story, did that have an impact in a different way than other ways that you've learned about it?
Well, we've obviously learned about it in history class, learned a lot about World War II, but being like actually in the play, and especially like my character itself as a Nazi, like it hit me a few days ago, like when I was bringing some people in, like I really just thought that I was bringing my friends into the room and then they left and they were done. But then I realized, like, if the statue was real and they were actually bringing people to their death, and it's a lot more personal. It's more like you actually experience like what it really was like.
Let's take, I think, two last questions.
Does anybody have anything to share about what they discovered about themselves in speaking these words that maybe you would never dream of speaking? You couldn't imagine yourself in this situation, but you did discover something either that that disturbed you or made you glad for who you perceive yourself to be. That's maybe too much to ask, but anything? And by the way, fantastic, fantastic work. I'm so proud of you all.
Did anyone discover something about themselves that they'd be willing to share?
Well, I mean, it's really hard to say those things, especially practicing them like in my house or in my bedroom. I was embarrassed of myself saying those things, and it kind of made me feel better about myself knowing that I wouldn't make the decisions my character made. And, yeah, it's a struggle.
Yeah, I think, oh, go ahead.
I was really, really apprehensive of doing this play, and I thought that I would blank out on a line in the middle of the play, but I found out about myself a lot throughout this entire experience. So it's been really great.
Anyone else discover anything that they're willing to share? Don't worry, we'll be doing the closing activity after this. One last question.
The German soldier that in the play, at the start of the play, he was conflicted about what they're having him do. and it seemed to have a huge shift at the end. It seemed like he went to the other side. I was just wondering if you have an idea of internally what went on inside him that made him go that direction.
I like to think that he was the conflicted person. He's not the really bad guy at the end. But in the script it says that he goes and gets drunk and then like is convincing himself that he can do this and that it's not bad, and that like Leduc, when he's like says like, if you were released, would you go? Would you leave all these other people, trying to show himself that the people that he's killing aren't nice people, they're bad people too. So I think it's a lot of just convincing yourself what you're doing is right, even if it's obviously wrong.
I think one of the great skills that actors have to have is to be able to look at another person and keep themselves somewhat separate from that. And I think everyone has done a really tremendous job of that. And no one in this play is, you know, well, most of the characters in this play have some flaw, right? Something that perhaps they're not proud of. And at some moment in the rehearsal, each of these students expressed some discomfort about the character that they were playing, about some character flaw of the person they were portraying. And for me, that highlights not the difficulty of them being an actor, but how wonderful they are as real people. Because if they didn't have that core kindness, that core strength, they wouldn't notice. You know, they wouldn't notice the disturbing thing that was happening outside of themselves. So when I asked questions throughout the course of rehearsal about the deeper questions that this play raises, the students brought back to me the quote that you'll see at the very end of the program. And so I just want to direct your attention to that as we wrap for the evening. Take a look at that quote if you haven't already, because that was their answer to what the questions that this play raises are. So thank you so much. Give them one last round of applause and have a wonderful afternoon.